Welcome in, everyone, to another edition of the Football Friday podcast. The regular season is finally here. We're finally talking about Week 1, 2017 NFL season getting underway Thursday night with the Chiefs and the Patriots. Alex Kozora, Ian Hunter joining me this week. No Tyler, unfortunately. Got tied up with stuff at school, so hopefully we'll hear from him next week. So I'll be doing Next Game, New Game, which is finally back a little bit later on in the show. Ian, first time we've had you back on in a couple weeks. What's happening?
I mean, is Tyler DiGiacomo literally tied up somewhere?
Oh, actually, you never know with D-Jock.
That's my point.
I guess we'll have to find out. Tune in next week to find out.
Oh, I don't know if I want to.
And Alex Kozora joins us as well. Busy week it's been for him with all the Steelers trades that have been moving. You're breaking down the 53-man roster. You hanging in there, Alex?
Yeah, it's probably been the busiest couple of days under definitely Tomlin history, probably Colbert history as well. We got a lot to talk about Pittsburgh today.
Yeah, definitely. And with stuff going around the league as well. We'll get to the Steelers in just one sec. But first, we want to start with the latest breaking news that's come down today. We are recording this on a Tuesday, so this is kind of breaking news for us. As the Bucs-Dolphins game is not being played on Sunday due to Hurricane Irma impending on South Florida, which is now a Category 5 hurricane. Just unbelievable hurricane season now this has turned into. It's likely to be moved to Week 11, according to ESPN's Jeff Darlington, and then reported by ESPN's Adam Schefter, when both teams have a bye. But this also still could be moved to a neutral site on Sunday that still has not been ruled out yet by the league. And this just came in. Lincoln Financial Field, obviously, where the Eagles play, has been thrown in as a possible neutral site for both teams. The other one is the Mercedes-Benz Superdome in New Orleans, where the Saints are. So we'll have to keep an eye on that. But I think it sounds like they're going to delay this until Week 11 when both teams have a bye, which obviously isn't ideal. But let's just start with the plain and simple first, guys. Ian, start with you. Obviously the right call here by the NFL. And what do you think the NFL should do here as far as trying to reschedule this game?
Well, I mean, it's easy with both teams having the same bye later on in the season. What does stink for these teams is you get all geared up for Week 1 of the regular season, and you now have to delay it another week, and now you possibly lose your bye week at the midpoint in the season. So it's not a great situation the whole way around, but if you're the NFL, you can't have this game even remotely scheduled if there's a Category 5 hurricane coming down. 185-mile-an-hour winds, that's just not – you can't do that. So there's no choice here. The NFL made the right decision by at least saying this game is not going to be in Miami.
Right, as much as you'd like to say, and even for myself, that well, maybe they can try and play it on Thursday, maybe a Friday, maybe they can play it at a neutral site on Sunday. I mean, just with this storm coming now, the logistics are just not there. And of course,
and these guys are people. We have to remember that
they have their families too, especially.
They're worried about loved ones. The game is the last thing they're thinking about, and that's okay.
And the fact that the NFL, I think, made this call this quickly, I think they learned from how they handled the Texans-Cowboys situation with Hurricane Harvey that just came by. Alex, any thoughts to this?
Well, obviously, it's not even a discussion if the game has to get moved location-wise. You just can't play the game. They have a major storm coming through. I would prefer than just moving it to a different location. I think New Orleans is a perfect solution. It can be done. There's still enough time to prepare that. And it's a way that you can play the game, scheduled day-wise without having to go through the bye week in Week 11, because I get if you have to do it, you have to do it. To play 16 games in a row is brutal. You need that bye week. It exists for a reason. I think that's kind of a player safety, player hazard sort of issue. So the NFL probably doesn't want to do that for the whole money thing, because I'm sure the attendance at any move game is going to be low. But I think from just what is best for both, maybe play this somewhere else. It doesn't sound like that's going to happen, but I think that's the common sense move here.
Yeah, I still, it's just a tough call here for the NFL because, I mean...
But what's the downside of moving sites?
Well, it's just that, the players obviously still have to worry about their families, and, they're going to be playing with dealing with all that. I get the professionals, they have to learn how to do that, and they sign up for stuff like that. But I think that's...
No, it's not even me trying to be callous and saying that they shouldn't have to worry about their families. But the people will get out. There's well advanced in this storm. Most people are going to evacuate, so it's not a concern about that.
Mandatory evacuation. You got a 185-mile-an-hour winds. You're moving.
Yeah. So the families are going to get out ahead of time. I mean, that's not the issue here.
Yeah, it's a fair point. Just because I'm sure the NFL teams, I'm sure, are helping each other's
beyond
families'
that, what
teams.
is the downside to moving location?
Yeah, no,
I'm in week 11 playing 16
I
straight.
totally hear you. If I'm a fan of either team, I would rather it being played Sunday at a neutral site too, especially when you have the time to do it. I'm just thinking that I think the NFL's probably just still going to, knowing what happened with how they handled Houston and how they wanted to get with their families. I think they're going to try
The
to.
big difference is that was a preseason game, the fourth preseason game.
Right, that is a valid point. I mean, like I said, I would be for them playing Sunday. I'd rather them play Sunday, just from a player safety standpoint. You don't want to see them play 16 regular season games. I'm just saying, I think the NFL is going to move it to week 11.
What do you think the players want, Catrilla?
Hard to say.
Yes, I know you don't know.
I'm sure it's split right down the middle, because I'm sure you're going to have your players that maybe aren't playing as much, like your backups that are going to want to be with their families, and I'm sure that maybe there are a few starters, but then you'll have your guys like, you know what, we got to deal with it. It's the way the NFL is. We don't want to have 16 game schedule. I'm ready to play week 1. We just went through the whole preseason. Now we got to wait another week to play a regular season game, and I'm sure it's split among the coaching staff too. It's a really tricky question and situation to be in right now if you're involved in this.
I'm for sure these guys just want to go out there and go play. They've been ready for this. This is their life. This is what they do, and I'm sure they're ready to go hit someone else for a change. And we talk about the gear up, and you've heard players talk about the gear up to week 1 and the emotions and nerves that they had for week 1. Can you imagine that all of that build up over training camp and mini camp and all of the things leading up to this moment, and you're told, down boy, now you have to hold for another week. It's hard to get that emotion back, and I hope they get a chance to play. I hope they do.
I do too.
I don't even think it's an issue of that, though I get what you're saying, Ian, and Catrilla, your comments about backups and stuff. I'm not really sure what that even means, that the backups care about their families and the starters just like,
Well, I mean, necessarily that
we're gonna have to rough this one out on their own.
I mean, it's just a split. I'm sure it's split regardless around the team.
I'm sure they're not, a unanimous decision here, but I think most people want to play because preparing for the storm. Once you're prepared and people are out, there's nothing left to do.
Yeah,
so on Sunday, you're just going to be sitting around doing nothing, So you might as well play the game. And if I'm sure most players are looking at this saying, 16 weeks of not just games but practices too. In the bye week, you get a couple of days off of practice as well. So even if you're a backup,
that's a good point.
It's still going to be wear and tear on your body. That's just, I think, unsustainable. So move it to New Orleans. The NFL does not want to do this because of the families. They want to put it in week 11 because they want to keep the revenue. Because if you put it in New Orleans, you put it in Philly, you're not going to have the attendance.
Especially in Philly. That makes no sense to me.
Well, I mean, just trying to find a stadium.
I know, but I mean, if you have one right there down the south like New Orleans, to me that's a no-brainer.
Well, I mean, there could be other logistical issues in terms of what condition that is, how ready it is for a game. I don't know. I think you just keep going.
The Chargers are playing in a soccer stadium.
Well, it's about preparation, but regardless, put it in a different place this Sunday. Keep that sense of normalcy. And I'm sure the NFL will not do this because it's logical. What's that?
Put it in a high school stadium. Go for the novelty.
Get it. I like it. When baseball did that with their minor league, the Pirates-Cardinals game.
Yeah, in Williamsport up here near me, exactly.
Big head.
Yeah,
it was.
So that's kind of a cool idea.
Put it in Canyon. Put it at where they play the Pro Football Hall of Fame game.
It's terrible. Someone's gonna hurt.
It's true. Yeah, never mind. That take that back. Yeah, never mind.
And if you say the Pro Bowl Stadium, Catrillo, I'm gonna fly through this computer and smack the bejesus out of you.
It wouldn't be a bad idea, but that's way too far.
Yeah, no, it's a bad idea.
Last minute. But it wouldn't be a bad idea. I'll leave it at that. All right, so we'll see how everything kind of shapes out with this. We'll keep an eye on that of when this game will exactly be played. So now we go to the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Alex, as you mentioned, it's been a very busy week for the team. First, they bring Kevin Colbert, sign him to an extension through the 2020 season, which makes sense because just a couple months ago, Mike Tomlin was signed to an extension for a similar time. And so, obviously, based on everything that's been done in recent years, I would say this is almost a no-brainer here, especially that you bring Tomlin back.
Yeah, Colbert, Tomlin, well-deserved, no discussion there. They get what they deserve.
Ian, you agree?
I have no further comment. I think the way the Steelers do business is that they keep everything consistent, and continuity is key, and we just saw that, and it's worked out pretty well for this team over the years.
I would agree. And one of those examples of that, of having that kind of continuity and that being brought up in this kind of organization, is T.J. Watt, first-round pick, named the starter at right outside linebacker over James Harrison. And so when I look at this, I obviously am fine with the move. James Harrison even mentioned, I'm going to do whatever I need to do to help the team win. That sort of thing that a veteran of his caliber normally would say. Ian, start with you. Do you like the move?
Listen, Jarvis Jones once started over James Harrison too, so let's not get too overblown about which player is better or anything like that. It's more important for James Harrison to be ready to go in November, December, January
Absolutely.
than September, October. So let TJ Watt get in there. Listen, if he outplays Harrison and he shows that he's the guy early on, then great. If he takes his licks and then you put Harrison in later, that's fine too. I'm okay with the move.
Yeah, fresh legs, really key for a guy like Harrison, especially later on in the season. In a season where, let's face it, the Steelers are throwing in a lot of pieces to try and have a big year and go for maybe one more championship run. Alex, what are your thoughts on this?
Wouldn't it be nice if you get TJ Watt to play consistently good ball all year, and then in the later half of the year and like late stages of games when the tackles and the guards and everyone's all tired, and you throw out a fresh 92.
Oh, yeah, no question.
Now.
Yeah, you can't get that kind of depth right really. It's very hard to do that right now in the NFL nowadays. Alex?
I don't get too caught up with starter or not. I think Watt, he's been named a starter, but he's run as a starter all at camp. The first half Harrison was in bubble wrap. They didn't let him practice. And Watt's earned it on his own merit. His conditioning level, first and foremost, I think has been really impressive. He's shown he's been able to log a high level of snaps going back to the first preseason game against the Giants, where he played, I think, 63 snaps on defense, 10 on special teams, and he plays at a consistently high level. I think he's comfortable in the system. It's a quick study, got a good work ethic, good head on his shoulders, coming from that football family of his. So, on that regard, Watt's made it on his own merit. But again, I care more about snap count. I think it could be a 50-50 split between the snaps, and so who cares who's the starter, who's the backup? There's no difference. My guess is that Watt's going to play more than 50-50 based on what he's done in the preseason. It could be more of a 70-30 kind of split where Harrison might come in every third series, but we'll have to find out this Sunday against the Browns. So I don't really care too much about who's the starter, who's the backup. I want to just see the rotation and the split. That's going to tell me more about where this team's head is at.
Yeah, valid point, but I think either way, you have to be excited about the depth there at right outside linebacker. I mean, you bring in a tremendous first-round pick in T.J. Watt, who's flourished this preseason, and no matter how you slice it and dice it, in comes James Harrison. I mean, that's a dynamic duo to have, really, for Pittsburgh.
Yeah, definitely.
So the other big move from the Steelers this week, they addressed the safety concern, especially with Mike Mitchell recently, and J.J. Wilcox is now a Pittsburgh Steeler. The Steelers trade for him, get him from Tampa Bay. They also trade a 2019 7th-round pick, and in return they send the 2018 6th-round pick as it flipped from the Ross Cockrell trade a couple of days ago. And then the Bucs eventually signed T.J. Ward, so this kind of worked out for both sides here, it seems like. So, Alex, we'll start with you. Where do you see this filling out for J.J. Wilcox? Could we see him on the field on Sunday, or how do you see this shaping out?
Well, it depends on how quickly he gets up to speed. I think that's going to be – he could see some sub-package snaps. I mean, it partially depends on the health of Mike Mitchell, who's missed all of camp. Tomlin called him questionable. My guess is Mitchell will play. He's practiced. He hasn't missed a game in his entire Steelers career. But we'll see what Wilcox can do in the sub-package. Now, they've had some other injuries at safety that I think kind of made this move necessary. Jordan Dangerfield got hurt. He's been waived injured. And Wilcox fits the culture of the physical hard hitter. My question about J.J. Wilcox is there anything beyond just being a physical hard hitter? The Steelers have a lot of those guys. I think him in coverage is a little questionable. His change of direction, consistency, some question marks there. And he's not a big playmaker. So, I get the move. If it lets him play more dime, we'll see if he could be an option mid-season as being the 6 DB. But, I'm fine with the move. He's a guy that's going to fit in right away. And you needed the depth, that's for sure.
Now, you mentioned how the Steelers playing in dime. Now, just correct me if I'm wrong. Haven't they've been showing more dime packages during training camp, and I guess somewhat in the preseason, though I know they're vanilla looks, Alex. Is that something that you've seen?
Yeah, they've run a lot of dime in the preseason. Now, it's been with an extra corner, so they've had 4 corners out there instead of 3 corners and 3 safeties. So you've had William Gay and Mike Hilton be that dime guy. I don't know if I love that idea or not, but I get it. We'll see if Wilcox midway through the year can kind of get put into that baggage. But I'm just all for being able to play dime in general, being able to vary your personnel groups and to be able to play through anything 3-4 nickel or dime and use that effectively. It's just another kind of tool in the tool belt. So if they can do that, more power to them.
Yeah, definitely. I think well said there. Ian, what do you like about this movie? How do you see this shaping out?
I think from a depth standpoint, it helps out a lot. And, you guys just broke down the dime defense. I think that move would make more sense bringing a guy like Wilcox in rather than a TJ Ward, who's not going to want to be a backup. Wilcox is going to know his role the second he moves in. He was going to play probably a similar game to Ward, so I'm okay with the move. I think it helps us. It doesn't hurt the Steelers by any stretch bringing in a guy like that.
Yeah, I think that's well said. I would definitely agree with that. Again, we're talking about the depth that you have a linebacker really on the defense as a whole, well, maybe minus the secondary, but you're trying to fill out all those voids, I think. Again, we're talking about how the Steelers are just able to find a way to manipulate through all this stuff, and that's why they bring back Kevin Colbert, to being able to work things out like that to put the team in the best position to win football games, and that's how you do it. So before we move on to getting ready for the Browns game this week, I'll start with Ian. Any surprises, objections to the final 53-man roster? Obviously, we saw with I think one of the things that stood out to me at receiver, Justin Hunter, you see him obviously making the team.
No, that one didn't surprise me a whole lot. They had a lot of depth at wide receiver. Justin Hunter from Alex Ford's did well all camp. How did Daniel McCullers make this team? Can someone please answer that question for me?
I think we go back to what we were just talking about, where it is at safety right now.
That move just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I thought they had enough players along the defensive line that were good enough to, make him expendable. And evidently, I was wrong. John Mitchell's a much smarter man than me, so he saw something that I clearly didn't. But that was the only surprise for me, really.
Now, Alex, right now he's still on the roster, even though they brought in J.J. Wilcox, right?
Who are you referring to, McCullers?
Yeah.
Yeah, McCullers is still there. They got to make another roster move to get Bell back on the roster officially.
So maybe he could be a culprit.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I'm scratching my head too, Ian. My guess they didn't really have a good 6 defensive lineman, so they just took, I guess he's the more talented guy. If Levon Hooks, which he is, and Johnny Maxey fell out of favor, so maybe they make a move there. You're always going to have gripes with the roster. I like David Johnson at tight end. Was a little bummed to see him get released, close the book on, and there's always going to be some surprises and stuff like that. Colin Hole was Steelers 6th-round pick, the long snapper, got cut, which I'm glad they made a decision based off of play, not draft pick, but that kind of stings a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. That was one of the other surprises to me too.
It's hard to evaluate a long snapper, but was he just not good enough? Is that as simple as that?
Well, there were some issues. The Colts game, he had a bad snap high and inside, led to a Boswell missed extra point. You can't evaluate a long snapper. I'm not good at it, so I can't really tell you much. But there's a velocity factor, there's an accuracy factor, and I think I heard some stuff that Kennedy had better velocity because the timing of the field goals have to be perfect. I forget what the time is. I've looked up stuff in the past, but from the time from the snap to the hold to the kick has to be under so many seconds. And if you aren't getting it there in time, then we're going to have problems. Kicking and punting is such an operational, everything has to be on schedule. So I think it was a combination of things. Hole being a rookie, making some rookie mistakes, the velocity, accuracy, and we'll see what Kennedy can do. Kennedy got cut last year because of those issues. Arians kicked him out. So hopefully he has better results this year.
Yeah, again, we talked about this last week with the Eagles situation when John Dorboss got traded to the Saints and they bring in Ricky Lovato now. All that timing is really critical, even though they make it look easy. And, obviously we talked about that last week, so we'll see how that shapes out for the Steelers. So now they get ready.
So spoiled since Greg Warren got here. The guy's been Mr. Consistent from the day he got here.
Same with John Dorboss on the Philly side.
Hey, the only bad snap Pittsburgh's had in Greg Warren's era is when he got hurt and James Harrison had a long snap. And no one needs to relive that. So as long as James Harrison's not back there long snapping, it'll be okay.
There you go. So now we get ready for the Browns game, 1 o'clock on Sunday in Cleveland. We talked about last week Deshaun Kaiser, now the starter. So, Alex, let me start with you. And if I'm Pittsburgh, at least, I'm looking to try and bring the blitz. I know you have to deal with some of the Corey Coleman on the outside there, but I'm trying to get some pressure on Kaiser, make him to have him force some early throws and force him into some bad decisions, and obviously keeping the running game to a minimum I think is going to be key in this one too, to make Kaiser force to throw the ball and keep him from getting into that early game rhythm.
Yeah, I mean, that's stuff you could, apply to any quarterback or really any team in general. Get pressure and stop the run. That's a good game plan, no matter if you're facing a rookie or a 10-year vet. I think the bigger element to this is just, you're going to win and lose against the Browns offense pre-snap. Because I think Hugh Jackson is the best, play caller in the NFL. What he's able to do pre-snaps with different personnel groupings and shifts and motions, you have to be on schedule and communicate effectively if you're the Steelers. And one problem with the Steelers defense is because they've had several injuries in the preseason, whether that's Ryan Shazier or Mike Mitchell, guys like that, they haven't gotten a lot of time to play as a unit. So I think pre-snap, being able to identify and communicate is going to be big, because the Browns offense works whenever they're able to keep defenses off balance with their boots and the different wrinkles that they're going to throw in. And I'm sure the first game, Hugh Jackson has a couple things up the sleeve. So that's going to be the big factor, is pre-snap against the Browns. And then quickly defensively that's going to be a really strong Browns defense this year. I don't want to be too hyperbolic about it, but this could be a potential top 10 defense, or at least in some certain categories, in interceptions and sacks, because Greg Williams has a complex scheme that's going to throw a lot at you, similar to Pittsburgh, maybe even more complex now. So we'll see how Ben's able to handle that. I mean, Ben should do reasonably well, but it's still going to be, I think, a tough defense to play. It's going to throw a lot at you.
I think overall, with being in week one, what was that, Ian?
Cleveland's not going to be a team that's going to be a doormat this year. I think they're going to be competitive. I'm not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, but I think there's a legitimate chance that they could be close to 500 by the time this year is over. The talent is on the field for the first time in a long time for Cleveland. So they have an opportunity, I think, to really climb out of the cellar and give teams some run. I mean, they're not going to be that 3-win team. I think they have a real chance of pushing Cincinnati and Baltimore in the AFC North.
I still see him as a 5-6 win team, but I do agree. I think you're going to see some improvement from them.
So what else in the AFC North? So Baltimore's banged up. Cincinnati is as inconsistent as they come.
Yeah, I get the division's not good this year, but I mean, they're still going to play outside the division.
No, I understand that, but we're just talking in division right now. I said they're going to push Cincinnati and Baltimore
maybe a little
in the division.
But I also think Baltimore's got a very good defense, too. And I think that can prove some issues for Kaiser, assuming he goes that far.
You can't win games if you don't score points.
Right, yeah. I mean, I think when you talk about Baltimore and Cleveland, they'll be better defensively than offensively, so you definitely have that there. But I still think Cincinnati still has some weapons offensively, though. I still question Andy Dalton.
Weapons offensively. Their problem is just defensively and meltdowns in the last minutes of games.
Yeah, exactly. But overall, I still, like I said, I still don't think Kaiser's even ready to start week one. I think the Browns are rushing him a little bit, and I'm just curious to see how Hugh Jackson handles this all once he sees those bumps in the road. Is he going to throw in Kessler or anybody else in that backfield?
Real quick, sorry to interrupt. I don't know how much time I want to devote to this, but this from Chris Mortensen 4 minutes ago. Ezekiel Elliott's 6-game suspension has been upheld by Harold Henderson.
Wow.
Source that the decision is expected to come down today. It's in. The union's going to fight it.
Right.
That's what's going to happen from there. I think Elliott can still play week one.
Well, here's the thing, because everyone's been saying that, but Adam Schefter posted a tweet earlier, and I retweeted this on the Football Friday account, and I have to find it real quick. What did it say? Where was it? I have to find it real quick. It says whether Ezekiel Elliott is still on the roster by Tuesday at 3 p.m. Dallas time, so 4 p.m. Eastern, has no bearing on whether he's eligible to play in the opener. So that tells me he still can't play Sunday.
Yeah, it would be weird if he could. Maybe I got it wrong. I don't know. I don't.
Right, because that was still out there, and then we didn't hear from Harold Henderson, who was the judge in this case, because he did put there was the report out earlier in the afternoon that he would come by the end of business day. So you're thinking maybe he will hit that 4 o'clock deadline Eastern, 3 p.m. Dallas time, but obviously it's 8:30 at night here on a Tuesday, and we're just hearing about it now. But my guess is he's suspended, so we can't play week one unless the NFL Players Association, the Cowboys, whomever, take this to a higher court like the Brady situation, which wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah,
which I years.
Yeah, so far from over, but that's the appeals process in the NFL bubble happening.
Right.
We'll see what happens from there. I don't know. I saw someone sum it up well, and I don't want to oversimplify a complicated situation, but basically, if Zeke physically abused a woman, 6 games. If he didn't, if there's not evidence of that, or not enough evidence of that, 0. It's weird that this is should it be 1? Should it be 3? It's 0 or 6. You follow the rule. If the rule applies, you do this. If it doesn't apply, there's no suspension. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's so murky at this point. I would pretty much tend to agree there because even the other stuff that happened, I mean, no, they didn't really get anywhere in court either. So I pretty much have to agree there, 0-6, because that's the rule. Ian?
I'm with Alex. If he did it, then he should be suspended. If there's no evidence, then you live in the United States of America where you are innocent until proven guilty.
Exactly.
I mean, I think that's fair in the courts, and I think that's fair in football. That hasn't always been the case in the NFL. There's been a lot of guys who have been proven not guilty who have been suspended anyway. But
I'm looking at this one tweet from someone from the Dallas Morning News, and again, we'll see what happens by the time people listen to this. It could be a different story, but it says Elliott will play Sunday against the Giants. Judge will rule by 5 p.m. Friday on an injunction. So I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen.
See, now that's where I have to draw the line. Now I get about the roster thing, but he's still suspended. He's still suspended. That doesn't make any sense.
I'm not sure what the rule is. I don't know. I'm not sure what's allowing him to play. But if it goes to the courts and it's still tied up, then just like the way that you appeal to the NFL, you get to play until the appeal's heard. So I don't know.
So we're really not going to know. So basically we know the 6 games. It's just a matter of when it starts now because this week 1 thing is murky.
Well, if it goes to the courts and the Union and Zeke wins, then you could have it overturned entirely.
That's true.
It doesn't have to be 6. But. I don't know. I get the judge making some ruling Friday on the injunction which the NFL's union has filed, so that might be the next step.
I mean, to me, if I'm doing this, I get you had the roster deadline, but to me, this is a different situation. If you're ruled to have indeed been suspended because you broke the rule from whatever the league rules are, then you should be suspended. I don't think there should be any, justification to that.
Welcome to Roger Goodell's NFL.
Well, that's a good point.
He plays it anyway. All the games, they really don't matter.
But right now, we still got his way because of what's written in the CBA, and this is probably going to be one of the number 1 reasons why we're going to have a lockout in the 2021 season when this expires. Because for whatever reason, the NFL Players Association stupidly agreed to this when we had the threat of a lockout in 2011.
We'll see. Yeah, the NFL's got a lot of questions to answer there about why its lead investigator said there should not be suspension. He got suspended anyway. So it's already been a mess. It's going to be a bigger mess.
And especially, too, that he reduced Greg Hardy's suspension from 10 to 4 not too long ago.
Yeah, well, each case is different. I don't know if that's really going to apply. I don't know if that's fair to say because you reduce one, you have to reduce everyone.
Right. I get everything. But I'm just saying it is there is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's going to be what the union's going to use on their side. But I don't know. We'll see what happens.
All right. Well, let's get back to Steelers.
You're getting kind of fired up over there. So I've been waiting all day for this of what you thought about Michael Lombardi.
Well, yeah, we're going to get to that, but first, let's give our. Well, actually, we'll pick the game in a little bit. We'll move on to the Eagles here. Actually, yeah, we'll do that. So we'll start with that then. We'll go to the Eagles 53-man roster in a sec. So yeah, Michael Lombardi. For those who didn't see it, he's now a contributor to The Ringer. He used to be on NFL Network. He's a former NFL exec. He's won a couple of Super Bowls. I believe the last time he was
NFL exec.
What's that?
He was a terrible NFL exec.
All right, yeah, and he was with Cleveland, and he was awful, yeah. So here it is here. And obviously, I'm about to I wasn't happy with what I saw there. And I don't care whatever good, bad, and different you were in the process of winning his 4 Super Bowls, but when you say something like this, your credibility goes right out the window.
Now, what did he say? What did he say?
Okay. He is quoted as saying, quote, Doug Peterson is, quote, the least qualified coach he's ever seen in the last 30 years in the NFL. And he says the Eagles should just get rid of him or should realize their mistakes. He doesn't understand the reason why the Eagles won't look at their mistakes in bringing in Doug Peterson, for example. and move on from him. But first of all, now I do say that I was not a fan of Doug Peterson's hire when he was just brought in last year. But having said that, the Eagles were much better for a better football team than we thought. I only thought they would be a 4-5 win team at most last year. They won 7. They were one game from 500. They had the 3-0 start with Carson Wentz. Nobody ever saw that coming, especially considering the circumstances. But yes, he still has a lot to prove this year. There's a lot of in-game management things that I don't like about. I didn't like seeing from him in his first year. But you have to give him the benefit of the doubt. Plus, you look at what happened last year. So there's just not enough evidence here just to blast him like this. And I think he's lost all credibility to me if he ever even had any. And even that, too, I think you're looking at a disgruntled NFL exec that failed all these years, although he did win a couple Super Bowls, but maybe he thought he could have been better. And it's jealousy.
But he won the Super Bowl for the Patriots, right?
I believe so, yeah. Yeah, he was under Belichick.
I think, I don't know. I don't have the grudge against him the way the controller does.
But regardless, this is a ridiculous statement and zero credibility to me.
Can't say things like that, but I mean, we live in a hot take world. He's trying,
and that's what the site is too.
All right, let me get in here. Let me ask you two questions. One, what was Lombardi's supporting evidence? Did he say why he feels that way about Peterson? Because I didn't see the comments.
Well, basically, he said the same things that we've all said about him, and there were all legitimate concerns about him coming in. You know, he wasn't a coordinator for that long. All of a sudden, he elevates himself to head coach, and he was trying to compare some sort of Sixers reference, a former Sixers GM or coach that was like 4-47 before he was fired after like 4 years, and he thinks Doug Peterson's not even going to last that long. It was just the stupidest thing I've ever seen. And then he goes, "Oh yeah," and the Eagles were like 3-7 at the end of last year, and they looked unprepared and things like that. Which some of it is legitimate. And the Eagles did. You go back to the Cincinnati game for an example. That game was, just lethally terrible. But
they say the same thing about John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. I mean, this has zero credibility to me.
Well, let me ask you my second question, Controller. What makes Doug Peterson a good coach?
I think at least to start the season, he got a lift with this towards the end, but I think he did try to play to everybody's strengths as best he can, but then he went away from it. Because I think
that's backhanded compliment.
But I think he outsmarted himself a little bit last year, which obviously is not good. But I think there's some things there. I just think he needed that experience. He does lack experience. There's no question. That's one of the reasons why I dislike the hire. But the fact of the matter is, he went 7-9 in his first season with a rookie quarterback. And he had that nice start, and things kind of falter a little bit here. But I think I think there's building blocks here, and now now the pieces that he's added this offseason, or the team's added this offseason, it's all on the table for him to improve. Now, if he doesn't do it this year, then obviously he doesn't prove himself as a head coach. But I just think there's nothing right there right now to say he's the worst head coach ever, because we've only seen one season from him.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's too strong, but here's my concern, though. I asked a very, I think, direct question. What does Doug Peterson do well? And my answers were, he outsmarts himself. It was a 7-9 season. He put guys in good situations that he didn't. There's a couple of building blocks the team has put around. It's not just Peterson. Like, he really didn't give me any good answer of this is what Doug Peterson does well. It was either he kind of shown it, he's kind of not, or he struggled here, or maybe it'll get better. So you can understand why there's that thought out there, because if you can't give me a direct answer in 5 seconds, what does Doug Peterson do well? Like, if I asked you, what does Bill Belichick do well? You can answer that like that. What does Pete Carroll do well? You can answer it like that. You can't do it with Peterson. I think that's a bit of a concern.
I mean, yeah, there are concerns about Doug Peterson, but I'm saying his particular argument was ridiculous. And
I asked you, what does he do well, and you could not give me an answer. Do you think that's a problem?
Slightly, yeah, but we'll see what he can do this year. That's why, let's face it, if Doug Peterson if the Eagles do not have a good season this year, if they do not improve, if Carson Wentz regresses, any of those things, then I'll be at the end of the season saying it's time to move on, and this was a bad move. I still have my concerns too, but what I'm saying is just pump the brakes a little bit, is what I'm saying to Mr. Lombardi.
No, I understand, but I think that you've already said parts of what he said is true. You're already almost in agreement that if it's another bad year, you'll agree with what he's saying. So I don't think it's far-fetched as you honestly think it is.
Ian, any other thoughts to this?
I just think Michael Lombardi shouldn't cast stones. I think he was a terrible, terrible executive. So for him to call anyone,
He got
not
fired in
ready
Cleveland, for
or
Pete's sake.
inexperienced is just hilarious for me. You can be right. It's all about that, but it's about it'd be like Blake Bortles, criticizing Tom Brady for throwing an interception.
Exactly.
Not that I'm
I like that
comparing
analogy.
Doug Peterson to Tom Brady, but my point is, some people should know where their place is whenever they're criticizing someone in the public.
Yeah, there you go. So that was that. There's your hot take there, I guess, from the opposite side there. A few hot takes, I should say, from Mr. Michael Lombardi and others.
But I think
So
more like lukewarm, and I think we have used more logic than most people do with hot takes.
that's true. Yeah, I'll give us that. So now we move on from the ridiculous to the sublime, as they say, and we go to the Eagles' 53-man roster, the final one. A couple of things I do disagree with. One is keeping 5 running backs. I did not see that coming. I was pretty shocked when I saw that. The fact that both you had Corey Clement and Donnell Pumphrey make the roster, to me, I'm not really liking, because now you lack depth a little bit at offensive line. You only kept 8 offensive linemen, and you're putting a lot of stock that everybody stays healthy. And you have guys that can move around, but that's really not ideal, I think. And you took some out at linebacker as well. I think you only kept like 5 linebackers. I was really surprised that
They only kept 5 linebackers on the whole team.
or maybe I think it was, I want to say it was 5 or 6. I have to double check that.
I don't.
So that was the only one I disagree with. And then the other one, I don't know how Shelton Gibson made this roster. For a guy that dropped balls all spring, wasn't that consistent in training camp, and he somehow makes this roster over a guy in Bryce Treggs who was slow to start, but then he really started becoming a more consistent target late in the preseason. I thought he played his way onto this 53-man roster. So that I really don't understand. Those are my
for the
only
5
two
running
objections.
backs, the 5 running backs, I mean, when Humphrey's just a special teamer, so don't even consider him as a running back, consider him special teams. I mean,
But he didn't even do that well. If you're going to keep him on special
Right.
teams, he didn't do that well.
Well, I mean, if that's the plan for him, I mean, if you're going to keep him, that's going to be his use.
If that's the case, then that's a problem, because that's way too much faith. And I get he was a 4th-round pick. You traded up for him, but I don't know.
Okay, what do you think they should have done with Pumphrey then?
I would have IR'd him.
Well, do you have a good enough excuse to IR him? I mean, it's kind of
He actually did have. He was checked for a head injury during the. I can't remember if it was the Jets game or the Dolphins game. So maybe
There's
they
got to
could
be
have.
some rules though with who you can IR.
Well, teams have skirted the rules before, but you have to do it
Right.
well. You can't just
Or-
have a healthy player.
Or you know what? If it could have been that case, I would have aided and practice squatted him and tried to keep developing him, because at the end of the day, as we talked about earlier with the Steelers long snapper situation, you have to evaluate based on the performance on the field, not by draft pick.
No, I hear you. I'm just asking what you would have done with him.
Yeah,
Just looking-
I would have done either way. I would have either tried to get him on IR or aided and put him on the practice squad. And same with Sheldon Gibson, too. Gibson, I would have put on the practice squad easily, because to me, there's still a lot of things that he needs to work on. I don't know how he made this 53-man roster. I really don't.
I don't know. What did you like? It's not like there was much there. They kept 6 linebackers, by the way.
It was 6. Okay, so he's kind of there. I mean, the defensive line I like for the most part. I mean, I didn't really have any objections there. I was a little surprised that Justin Hamilton didn't make the roster, but I mean, they did put him on the practice squad, so there's that there. I did like they put Gabe Wright too on the practice squad. He was a guy that I thought was an underrated good player that had a good preseason for the Eagles on the defensive line, so I like that. Obviously, you only kept 2 quarterbacks. That's fine there, but yeah, you're going to be worried about Nick Foles and his forearm, or his elbow rather. See how that goes. Offensive line, like I said, that concerns me a little. But I mean, the guys that they have kept, I think, are good. I was a little surprised Chance Warmack made the roster, but he's a veteran. Maybe he'll continue to grow on him. You know, maybe put some faith in that one. But other than that, I wasn't really surprised or anything else. Just the two big objections were the 5 running backs and putting Gibson on the roster, for me at least.
I'm glad Corey Clement made it. It made me happy.
I am too, because I think he was the more deserving between him and Pumphrey. So, and he's a local product too. He's a South Jersey native as well, you know, from a Philly standpoint. So, that was a cool story. Everybody was rooting for him to make the roster for that local connection. I just don't get why Pumphrey and Gibson's on the roster. That's basically it for me.
Yeah, no, that's fair. They both struggled. So do you think Pumphrey's going to be your starting returner in punts and or kicks?
Well, I think that's still going to. Well, punts, it's still going to be Sproles. I think there's no question there.
All right,
kick returning is another thing. That wouldn't surprise me if he's back there. I think he was a tad better at kick return, but I may be still nervous.
If not him, then who? Gibson did it. I don't know if he was doing it with you guys. Did it.
Maybe Matt Collins. Matt Collins, you can also see in the mix for punt returner, I think, because I think he did get a few snaps there during the preseason. Wendell Smallwood, I think, could probably see a lot of time too at kick returner.
Yeah, it'd be interesting.
So yeah, I don't think there's gonna. I think they'll probably be mixing and matching in that spot. But most of all, punt return, it's going to be Darren Sproles.
Gotcha.
There's no question there. But this being most likely his last year anyway in the NFL, so you're going to use him as much as you can. So now we go on to the Redskins. Eagles there this week to kick off Week 1 in Landover, Maryland, and obviously I've talked about through the offseason where I think this Redskins team stinks. I think there's some holes for them defensively. Obviously, the big news this week, Stuart Cravens, who was supposed to be their starting safety, the second-round pick last year, who was out all season, was on IR, started linebacker. They converted him to safety, and now he's out after contemplating retirement. He's on the NFI list, so the Eagles won't see him. So there's a hole there in the secondary, which already was kind of iffy to begin with. The linebacking core is a little bit better. Most notably, Junior Gillette is going to probably seize the playing field finally for the first time in a few years from injury. So I think the front seven, as it normally has been the last few years with the Redskins, is going to be somewhat problematic for the Eagles to handle. But now that I think that they have the whole offensive line, I think they can tame that a little bit. But they still could have their issues, especially early on in the road when the crowd's juiced up. But the Eagles got to be able to run the football, and that's the number one thing I'm looking at really in this game is full dose of LeGarrette Blount, establish the run, get the crowd out of it, get Wentz into rhythm, and I want to see more of the hurry-up offense because we saw it at times last year and at times in the preseason. Anytime the Eagles needed a spark, they went to the no-huddle. It worked. So I think to try and get that going again, get some of that momentum going, I want to see them do that and run the football and try to slow down that pass rush from the Redskins because once you do that, Wentz has the ability to pick that defense apart. And then defensively for the Eagles facing that Redskins offense, I think to me you just got to shut down the run with Robert Kelly and everybody in the backfield there, and we'll see how they find a way to contain Terrell Pryor. That obviously is a major concern of mine, and Jordan Reed then down the middle too. So we'll see how they're able to handle that. But other than that, I do like the Eagles in this game. I think it's going to be a close game, probably a little bit of back and forth, but I think the Eagles will find a way to pull it out, make a play in the end. Because I just don't believe in the Redskins. I just think there's too many inconsistencies on both sides of the football. So, Alex, let me go to you. What do you look at in this game?
I said before, the Eagles have to establish the run game. They didn't do it at all last year. Carson Wentz had a rookie record for pass attempts over 600. Can Blount be that guy? I have my reservations, but it'd be huge if they could. Short yardage and just being able to get yourself in second and manageable situations. You don't want to be stuck in 2nd and 11, 2nd and 9. Those turns into 3rd and 7+, and your chances of conversion are really low. One, I think, X factor, and a guy that I like, that I think is underrated in Washington, is Chris Thompson, the running back. They're a third down guy. You're going to see Kelly work on early downs. You're going to get P. Ryan in some short yardage situations. But Chris Thompson is kind of the linchpin on third down. Out of the backfield, I think he had 49 catches last year. He's really good in pass protection. You don't want to have that 3rd and 5 dump off of Thompson that extends drives and gets Washington in the scoring position. So if they can find a way to maybe contain Thompson and get after him with blitz concepts, that.
Oh, I think we might have just lost Alex there, so we'll get back to him on that. Ian, let me get your thoughts on this game. Mike is muted.
Sorry about that. I forgot Junior Gillette was even playing. I'll be honest with you guys. I thought that he was gone, and he's still around. So that's interesting. I think the Eagles have a pretty good shot at winning this game. I mean, the Redskins are one of those teams where every year I feel like they take a step forward, and then in the offseason they always take about 2 steps back. So I think this actually is not going to be a great year for the Redskins. I think Philadelphia should win this game pretty. I don't want to say handedly, but I think they're going to. I think they'll take control and win this game.
So, Alex, let me go back to you and finish your point earlier. Sorry that we lost you there.
What's that?
I think we lost you towards the end of your point. Did you want to go back and just finish what you were saying?
Oh, I didn't realize it cut off. But no, I just said Thompson's going to be the X factor. When you look back at this game, it'll come down to if you're able to kind of contain him on some third downs and stuff that let Washington, either continue or stop drives. Then that's going to be the difference. But I don't know. Give me. I'll take the Eagles. I don't know if I want to take the Eagles. That secondary still concerns me.
And I mean, the other thing too that concerns me as well, talk about the evaluations of Doug Peterson. The Eagles were 1-7 on the road last year, so they gotta prove that they can win some road games. And here it is right off the bat, especially in the Division II where they were only 2-4. They've lost 5 in a row to Washington. So, like I said, this isn't going to be an easy game. I just think the Eagles are the better football team, and maybe Week 1 they can find a way to get it done. So I'm going to show a little faith in them this week.
All right, I'll go Washington. I changed my mind. I like that offensive line. It's a tough physical group. I think that'll compensate for the lack of a great running back. I think they have more weapons on the outside. Jamison Crowder, Terrell Pryor. That secondary that's either new or young or both could struggle. So, yeah, I'll take Washington.
All right, fair enough. We'll mark that there. We'll officially mark it there. Our next game, new game. And actually, we'll roll with that right now, actually. So we're going to run out of time here, so we will get right to that. So I have the Eagles, and Ian has the Eagles, and Alex has the Redskins. And we'll finish up with our official picks for the Steelers and the Browns. I like Pittsburgh in this game. I think it's going to be a closer game than what people anticipate, but I think they pull away. Alex, what's your official prediction?
I agree with you, Catrillo, but I'll take Pittsburgh.
Ian?
I'm with you guys, Pittsburgh.
All right. Now we go to Thursday night, opening game of the season. Chiefs at the Patriots. We match from the divisional round as well. Ian, let me start with you. Who do you like Thursday night?
The Chiefs met in the divisional round with the Patriots?
Didn't they? I'm thinking of 2 years ago. I'm sorry. Scratch that. Anyway.
Swing and a miss, Catrillo. Swing and a miss.
Yeah. Steelers played the Chiefs in the divisional round. My fault.
Yes, they did. I'll give me the Patriots. Until they prove to me that they can actually lose and be human, I'm going to pick the Patriots every single week. So,
yeah, I agree. I like New England, too. I think, crowd behind them, Super Bowl champs, they're going to get it done at home. Alex?
Why don't they make Philip Dorsett like a 1,500-yard receiver this year? I'm waiting for that to happen.
Actually, they traded him. They traded him earlier in the week to, I forget who, but they did trade him.
The Patriots acquired Dorsett for Jacoby Brissett.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I'm thinking. All right, I'm really screwing up now. I'm just going to shut up. Never mind. I'm just going to shut up and let Alex talk because I'm just my brain's shutting down.
Yeah, I think Dorsett's going to be a deep threat though with him and Brandon Cooks, and I think the Patriots are a much more vertical attack, while the Chiefs' have some weapons are limited by Alex Smith. So, yeah, Patriots, they're going to get some big explosive plays. What
I mixed up about that was whatever reason I thought about Jacoby Brissett, the Patriots' third string, who the Patriots sent to Indianapolis for Philip Dorsett. So, yes, I like that trade. I agree. They'll be more vertical. There we go. Okay, next. Jets at the Bills. Alex.
I mean, both these teams kind of stink, but the Jets are the dumpster fire of the NFL. So, but Tyrod Taylor, I think, is going to play. So, give me the Bills.
Yeah, sounds like Tyrod Taylor will play. Jets are just as you mentioned, dumpster fire. I like the Bills fairly handedly in this one. Ian?
Man, I have to pick this game?
I know, the first toilet bowl game of the season.
I don't know if the Jets are going to win a game this year, so yeah, give me the Bills.
I'm right with you there on that one. Next one, Falcons at the
Jets, by the way.
It's going to be Josh McCown.
Okay.
We almost got hurt last week against the Eagles because somehow, for whatever reason...
Teddy is the number 2. Hackenberg is not third string.
Right, yes, yeah.
Come on, Hack.
But somehow...
If you're going to go dumpster fire, go full dumpster fire.
Yeah.
Well, some are arguing that they're already still doing that regardless, trying to go a.k.a. Sixers mode for bringing basketball into this year. Anyway, Falcons at the Bears. Alex, next game, new game.
Still me. Yeah, give me Atlanta. Lacking weapons in Chicago. I like Jordan Howard. I think the defense has made a couple of strides, but Atlanta's too good.
Yeah, me too. Atlanta all day. Ian?
Yeah, give me Atlanta. I like the Terry Poe addition for Atlanta. I'm really excited to see him play.
All right, next one, AFC North battle, Ravens and
You took Atlanta.
yeah, Ian took Atlanta.
No, you.
Did you take?
Oh, I took Atlanta. I'm sorry. Yes, I took Atlanta.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Next, Ravens at the Bengals. Ian.
I just think there's too many offensive weapons for the Ravens to guard, and I don't think they're healthy enough anywhere on offense, or the rest of their team for that instance, to keep up with the Bengals. Give me the Bengals in this one.
Alex.
I'm going to take the Ravens because I think that Bengals O-line is going to be bad no matter what, but especially early on with how new that group is. No John Ross for Cincinnati. I think that Marvin Lewis is stupid and is going to start Jeremy Hill. It's going to take him a week or two to figure out how Joe Mixon should be getting the lion's share of the carries. So I think Baltimore is the better defense. They get more pressure. Matt Judon, I like him from last year. So give me Baltimore.
Yeah, I agree
John
with you.
Ross isn't playing? I thought he was.
Not this week. He's got a knee issue.
Oh, well then switch my pick.
Wow, your whole pick. Okay.
Well, I mean, you take away some of that explosion, then I like Tyler Boyd, but he's not scaring anybody. So no, that changes things for me. Now it's gonna be a crappy game, but I'll take Baltimore.
I agree. I'm taking Baltimore as well. I think their defense is going to force a couple of turnovers of Andy Dalton, and that's a good point too. You bring up about Jeremy Hill and the Joe Mixon situation at running back, Alex. So I agree. I will take Baltimore.
500 yards.
Yeah, we'll see. Next game, Cardinals at the Lions. Ian.
You know what? Give me the Lions in this one. I got a feeling about them this year. I'm not saying that they're going to be like this elite team, but Matt Stafford is a really, really good ball player, and I think that they have a chance to defensively be a little bit better this year than they were. So, give me Detroit in this one.
Alex, what say you on this one?
I'm going to go Arizona. I like the running game better. They're more consistent, more weapons. I think Greg Robinson is starting at left tackle, I want to say, for the Lions.
Yeah, didn't he just get signed today?
Today?
Yeah, he's been with them for a while.
He got traded a couple months ago. But I'm not sure if Marcus Golden plays on that side or not, but Golden's going to have a great year. I think he's an underrated pass rusher in the league. We're putting a lot of work in the offseason. I think Cardinals, I'm not big fans of them. I'm not a big fan of Carson Palmer now, but me, Arizona.
I like Arizona as well. I just think that offensive line for Detroit scares me, and I think Arizona's front four is going to be able to get some pressure on Stafford a little bit. And I like the run game too. I like it better. I think David Johnson could have a good game, so I'll take Arizona on the road as well. Next game, new game, Jaguars at the Texans. Ian.
Everything about Jacksonville tells me that they should win except for their quarterback. And being that that's the most important position on the field, give me Houston.
Basically, I like the better quarterback play. I still like Houston's defense a little bit better. I like them they play well at home, especially, so I'll take Houston at home. Alex?
I don't mean to get all sentimental because I think it's usually overvalued, but with everything that's happened in Houston so far and the support that city's given, was just the return of J.J. Watt, but also what Watt's done.
$20 million so far. That's incredible.
It's amazing. I think they had the city behind him, just like the Saints after Katrina.
Yeah.
Houston after Harvey.
I think it could be a similar atmosphere there as you saw with the Saints on Monday night against the Falcons the year after they came back from Katrina. So, yeah, that's a real good point to bring up there, Alex. So, yeah, definitely Houston, I think, could win that one. Next, we have, whenever it gets played, we'll pick it, I guess. We'll assume it's still going to find a way to get played Sunday. We'll pick Buccaneers at the Dolphins. Alex, we'll start with you.
I like the Buccaneers a lot this year. I'm a little worried about that run game without Doug Martin the first month. I think Cutler's, in some ways, is good for that offense. It's going to make it more vertical attack. I don't know what I want to go with here. I'm going to go with the Bucs just because I think that Dolphins offensive line is in kind of a rough spot right now. I think they've had injuries with Ted Larson. They have, I think, Anthony Steen at guard. I think Pouncey's had his problems. I think it's going to be a close game, but I give me Tampa Bay.
Ian, what do you like in this game?
I think Jameis Winston is a dark horse for MVP this year. So give me the Bucs.
I love everything about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, especially what they have offensively, but I like that defense a lot too, and I think they will be able to force a turnover or two on Gerald McCoy or on Jay Cutler, and I think that'll be a big difference in the football game.
Well, now
I'll take Tampa
Bay. My life to see Gerald McCoy play quarterback for a little bit.
I saw Poe last year.
That's true. Yeah, that was pretty cool. That was a fun play from last year. One of the better plays I thought from last year. So, but yeah, I like Tampa Bay on the road. And the next one, this is a very interesting game here. I've been going back and forth in this all week. Oakland at Tennessee. Alex.
I'm fans of both of these teams. I love what Tennessee's doing. With Dick LeBeau as a defense coordinator, the pieces they've added on offense, they've added more weapons. Corey Davis is going to probably get a rotation of work this year or this week. But I think Oakland's too powerful on offense. I think the secondary, the defensive line's going to get more pressure. There's some questions about the secondary, but turning Derek Carr, so give me Oakland.
I love Tennessee, Alex, and I agree. I really like both these teams, but I think Tennessee's going to win the AFC South this year. I'm putting that out there. But I think they're going to lose this game just because I think Oakland, as you mentioned, just has way too much on offense to deal with. So I'll take Oakland in a rather close game, but keep an eye on those Titans this year. I think they're going to win the AFC South. They're going to be a very good football team. Ian, now we'll go to you.
I'll go different. I'll go Tennessee with this one. I love everything that Tennessee has done. And
I like it.
Dick LeBeau's defense just finds a way sometimes. Watches enough to know. Week 1, Dick LeBeau always seems to have his guys ready to rock and roll. Defense. Marcus Mariota, the big question mark for him is how he comes back after injury. I think he'll be fine. That's a really good offensive line for Tennessee. And I think they're going to smash them out their way to victory.
All right. I like the pick. I wouldn't be surprised. So Alex and I are just brave enough to go with Tennessee just yet. Next game, Colts at the Rams. This is not going to be a good game at all. Ian, we'll go with you on this one.
Hey, I think you got to go with the Rams here. If no Andrew Luck, then who is what? Scott Tolzien?
Yeah, Tolzien's going to start. Yeah, Tolzien's going to start.
Be ready. I think actually with Sammy Watkins coming in, and Jared Goff is going to make some strides this year and become a pretty good player. Big thing if Aaron Donald was playing this game, I would say lock and key, go Rams. But that situation, I don't know. This is a tough game to predict just because you don't know. Neither team has their full cast. But if you're making me pick what you are, I'll take the Rams.
You know what? There's not a lot that I like about the Rams, especially offensively, but I like the pieces they have defensively. But the Colts are just so bad right now that I think this is my outright pick this week. I like the Rams to smash the Colts.
What does that even mean? We're not doing bets. This is a win or lose. How can you outright something?
I don't know. Well, I just think that the Rams are going to smash the Colts big time. I think they win handedly in this game.
Give me the Rams for like you guys said. I don't know how good that offense is going to be, but this year, but it'll be better than the Colts. So, for the Rams.
And now we go to one of the better America's game of the week, I guess, for Fox. Seahawks at the Packers. Alex, what do you like in this one?
Still give me Green Bay. That Seahawks O-line is just same old story, a complete mess. They have new faces, a left tackle. I think it's a guard. I forget his name. Reese, something that's played guard. He's now their left tackle after George Fant got hurt. So, give me Green Bay.
Ian?
Aaron Rodgers is you can probably make the argument he's the second best player in the NFL next to Tom Brady. So, go give me Aaron Rodgers.
You could say he's the first.
Yeah, certainly can.
Seattle has not started out well the last 2 seasons in September, and this is another tough road game for them. And I think it's a close game, but I lean Green Bay too in this one. I think Rodgers makes a play in the end late, and that offensive line for Seattle, as you guys mentioned, still worries me. So I'll take.
I'm excited to see that Seattle defense, though. I think that's what's really going to make it a really competitive game. And with Sheldon Richardson coming in with that already talented defense. That defense is going to go back to the super elite level that they were a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I think that's gonna be an interesting thing to watch individually for the Seahawks and see how he fits in there. But I still like Green Bay in this game in a close one. Next one, Panthers at the 49ers. Ian.
I'll give me the Panthers. Lock and key, Panthers.
I agree. Panthers roll in this one. Alex.
Yeah, you want to talk about outright picks? There's one for you. I think the Panthers are going to be back for a bounce back season in a good way.
Yeah, I agree with that too. I think they could be a playoff team, and you could see 3 out of the NFC South this year. Then the Sunday night game. We'll see who plays, who doesn't play. Odell Beckham Jr. We'll see if he plays from his ankle injury he suffered in the Browns preseason game. Ezekiel Elliott, is he going to play? We talked about that breaking news earlier. We'll see what happens there. Alex, let me start with you.
Did you ask me, Katrilla?
Yes.
I don't know which way I want to go here. That Giants front seven against the run and one of the best run defense teams in the NFL. But the Cowboys have one of the best run blocking offensive lines in the NFL. I think that the Cowboys are in a little better place health-wise. I'm going to assume as of right now Zeke is going to play, and that'll make all the difference if the Cowboys win.
Ian.
Yeah, the big thing for that Giants team is what we just talked about with Seattle is how poor their offensive line is. And I understand that Dallas has a lot of guys that aren't playing and that are suspended, but I still think they're able to find ways to pressure Eli Manning and have a less than healthy Odell Beckham and less than healthy Brandon Marshall. It just you're running out of options at that point. Bad offensive line, you're losing two weapons. Does not condone winning. So give me the Cowboys.
I still like the Giants. I think they're the best team in the division. I think they're going to win. I think they can be a deep playoff team this year. I get Odell Beckham's not going to be there. If Zeke plays, he'll get his yards, but Dallas has literally nothing defensively, and I think they'll find a way to get things going offensively, and I think the Giants sneak out and steal one from Dallas, and they get the win there. So I will take the Giants in that one in the Sunday night game. Then our two Monday night games. First one, Saints and the Vikings. Adrian Peterson returning back to Minnesota. Do they get it done for AP, Alex?
I'm going to take Minnesota in this one. Say what you know about Sam Bradford, but they're an efficient offense. They'll be a much better rushing offense with Dalvin Cook. I think he has a big game. The defense can get after the pass rush. I like Xavier Rhodes at corner to help shut down Michael Thomas. The Saints defense, still big question marks there. Even the Vikings.
Ian, what do you think?
Yeah, Vikings all day. That defense is probably the best in the NFL. That no one, for whatever reason, no one likes to talk about them still. So give me the Vikings.
I like New Orleans on the road. I know defensively they have a lot of question marks, but I'm just not a believer in the Minnesota offense. And I know Dalvin Cook's probably
Bradford. Don't lie to us.
Well, I mean, he does play a part of it, but that Minnesota receiving core, I think, other than Adam Thielen, I think that's pretty much all they have. I do like Dalvin Cook as long as he keeps himself clean off the field. But I think the Saints are going to be motivated to win this game. I think AP could have a little flashback and have a pretty good, decent game. So I like New Orleans to steal one in Minnesota. And finally, the Chargers, the LA Chargers, their inaugural season back in LA, taking on the Broncos on the road. Ian.
Yeah, you got to take the Chargers, I think. I know they've had their injury issues, but I think their pass rush is going to be really, really good, as will Denver's. But at the end of the day, better quarterback play is going to be in favor of San Diego, so give me the Chargers.
Alex.
I don't know. I'm going to go Denver. I know they have a better quarterback, but I think Denver has the better everything else. And so I think that's enough of a factor to push the Chargers over the top.
What line that Denver has?
What do the Chargers have? They lost Forrest Lamp. I think they lost another guy.
Stink.
Can you name me a Chargers offensive lineman right now?
No, actually, wow.
Yeah, I'm not even sure. I can't even think of really right now. So,
I mean, you got guards in fantasy football, okay?
I mean, Denver has Garrett Bowles. They have the center, what's his name, Paradis, who's one of the best centers in the league, super underrated guy. Jamal Charles has looked good. I think he's going to have a nice game. Get a little more out of him. So, taking Denver.
I like Denver too. As I think just the Chargers stink altogether. And it's the first year for Anthony Lynn. They're not in a good situation. I take Denver. I'll actually say pretty handily in this one. I really do. Even though Denver's quarterback situation isn't the greatest. But I agree with Dallas. I think they are much better in every other category but quarterback. Even though I haven't been the biggest Phillip Rivers fan at times either. So I'll take Denver in this one. So those are our picks for this week. That's our first segment of Next Game, New Game. Hopefully D-Jock will be back next week and we'll get that going. So looking forward to Thursday night. We'll have this up hopefully by then, courtesy of Ian. Ian, always a thank you.
Thursday.
Yeah, Ian, always a thank you for getting the shows edited. And that will do it for this week's show. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at FFPodcast1. You can follow Alex on Twitter at Alex_Kazora. Ian's on Twitter at B104_Hunter. I am at Twitter at MCatrillo. And remember, we're at Football Friday on YouTube for all of the latest show archives. You can check all those out there at Football Friday on YouTube. And that will do it for this week's show. For Alex Kazora, for Ian Hunter, I'm Matt Catrillo. Enjoy Week 1 of the 2017 NFL season. Thanks for listening to the Football Friday podcast.